Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Tanya Nash, and I'm the board president of the Autism Faith Network. We are hosting this webinar today in honor of Autism Awareness Month and as part of our Accessible Faith Initiative. Today, we are excited to have Ryan Wolf as our guest as we discuss how to develop curriculum for your disability ministry. Ryan Wolf, president of Ability Ministry, has a wealth of knowledge and experience in the emerging field of disability ministry. He spent 15 years of local church ministry at First Christian Church in Canton, Ohio, where he was the full-time disability ministry pastor. Ryan has served as a church consultant for Key Ministry. He also was a regular contributing author for Joni and Friends and Irresistible Church. He is a co-author on the 2018 Joni and Friends Helping with Life Transitions book and author of the 2018 book, My Friends, My Teachers, Life-Changing Encounters with Disability. Ryan frequently serves as a featured speaker at conferences and events that support and uplift the disability community. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join us, Ryan. Let's get started. So Ryan, tell us, how did you get started in disability ministry?
Uh, my story, I think, is a little different than most in the field. I didn't grow up with an immediate family member with a disability. Uh, my journey into this really was based more on friendship. At First Christian Church in Canton, Ohio, had a class for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Has had that for almost 40 years now, and it was the only sector of my life where I saw people that looked different, walked different, talked different than I did. Because back in the 80s, growing up in school, classrooms were separate, and I never ran into anyone that was seemingly different than myself. And a lot of people get scared and maybe shy away from people that are perceived to be different. But to me, it was like interesting and attractive. And I was like, I got to get to know these people. So even as a teenager, I made a lot of friends with adults with disabilities at my church. Sat with them at church, got to know them, talk with them every Sunday, and God just kind of opened my eyes and my heart to this field of ministry. In the 90s, 80s, 90s, it wasn't really a formalized ministry. It still isn't. It's becoming a formalized ministry that churches are beginning to recognize. But just back as a teenager, really, that opened my eyes to something that just was irresistible to me, and just kind of pursued that ever since.
That's awesome. And so eventually, you started off as a teenager and then you eventually became a disability ministry pastor for 15 years. That's a considerable amount of time that you served in that role. And so, what are some of the things that you learned from that experience?
I think right off the bat, one of the biggest things that I've learned is that it's not an us and them
Mhm.
ministry. It's not us able, bodied, neurotypical people coming to the rescue of people with disabilities. That's not what it is. It's actually, sometimes quite the opposite. It's all of us ministering together as brothers and sisters in Christ. And another thing that I learned very, very quickly is that if you're not willing to have fun and sometimes make fun of yourself, it's going to be a difficult time in ministry. The two big F words that I think a disability ministry requires is fun and flexibility.
Mm.
So because I've learned very often that but very, very seldomly does everything go as planned in disability ministry. So be flexible, be willing to have fun, make fun of yourself, realize that it's an us conversation, not an us and them. And then just the fact that we're all more alike than we're different. I think those were some of the early things that became very apparent to me in ministry.
Hey. And so, how have things evolved in disability ministry from when you first started out?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things has been a recent thing with like the pandemic, uh,
Mhm.
the shifting of And I think this is a reality that we all kind of knew, um, that ministry is more than just Sunday morning. And I think the pandemic challenged us to think outside of the box of Sunday morning, right? So we're again doing things via video, but I think the piece beyond that was just the caring for people where they are at became um, so prevalent for so many of us. And again, I think that's always been the case, but I think that we've allowed Sunday mornings to dominate everything that we do, and we lose sight of everything outside of Sunday mornings. So I think a big shift of saying, okay, ministry is more than Sunday mornings, and is going to be dependent on how much are you willing to get out of the office, and do things that are not tied to what happens on Sunday morning. So I think that's kind of been a more recent revelation. Again, it's not a new truth, but it's something that we've been forced to do in ministry, and I think it's been a good thing.
Yes, yes. And so I'm sure you've had a lot of interactions with families throughout your ministry. And I was wondering, I know your church that you were a pastor in at First Christian Church had a culture of being accepting of people with disabilities, for decades. But what advice do you have for families that are trying to find a church that is more inclusive for those with disabilities?
Yeah, I think one of the big things is, as churches, again, maybe because of the pandemic, have become more aware of the on the website. So I'd encourage families, go look at churches' websites, churches that are in the area close to you. Look online, see what people are posting that's available to them. We have a tool on our website at abilityministry.com. It's called a church locator tool. So as churches that want to make known the fact that they have some type of disability ministry, we put them on our church locator tool, so you can plug in your zip code and it'll bring up all the churches that have a disability ministry. Comprehensive list as we're building it, but I just encourage families, go online, see what's out there, and the second piece to that, I would say, for families is, um, be brave and be forgiving, uh, because you may visit a church that may look good online, or you may give a church a chance if they don't have anything online because it's been a recommendation of someone else, and you may not have the greatest first experience, but extend grace, and I'm hoping that churches will do the same. I'm hoping that churches will extend grace to families, because you can't give up if you have one or two or maybe even three bad experiences, because we've all heard the horror stories. So be brave, extend grace, do your research. Families, don't be afraid to call a church during the week. Again, this is outside Sunday mornings. Don't be afraid to call a church during the week and ask to visit during the week before you ever come on a Sunday morning. Ask
Okay.
to talk to staff.
Mhm.
Ask them about their procedures. It's okay. Uh, in doing that, you may be helping the staff to think through things that they haven't thought of before. Help the staff visit. So, like, that's another thing that I think it takes some guts to do. Just to call up a church and say, "Hey, I'd love to come in and see the church, talk to staff." But I think it can be a good thing for everybody.
That's good. That's good advice. So, through the work of organizations like Ability Ministry, more churches are starting to see the need for disability ministry. What kind of training or experience do you recommend for church leaders that are seeking to start a disability ministry?
Well, we have two very, very good and free tools for churches. So if you go to our website, abilityministry.com, in the right hand corner, there's a button that says "I want to." If you click on that button, "I want to," it'll drop down four options for you. The very first option is, "I want to start a disability ministry." 11 step guide on how to start a disability ministry from scratch, and it gives you all the different free resources that you'll need along the way. So that's the first thing I would point churches to, because we know, people think it's complicated. It's really not.
Yeah.
So we wanted to make it simple and easy to find. So go to abilityministry.com, upper right hand corner button says I want to start a disability ministry. Or you can go to our website, again, abilityministry.com, and you can type this into the search bar. Type in why our church should start a disability ministry. All right. So you
Okay.
just type in that question, and it'll take you to a product in our store that's, again, it's free. Why our church should start a disability ministry. It's 5 points, super simple, super convincing. One of those points being that Jesus commands it. So if we don't do it, we're not being obedient to Jesus. So that's a big one. So yeah, so we've got a lot of free tools and resources online that can help churches.
Wonderful. It's good to hear about all of the resources that Ability Ministry provides. All right. So, we get a lot of questions about how to create or modify a curriculum for those who may have a disability. So, where should ministry leaders start?
First thing I would say is download some free samples of
Mhm.
curriculum. We provide free samples of our curriculum. Again, you go to abilityministry.com, tap on that I want to big
Mhm.
button in the right hand corner. I think the second is the free curriculum. So you can do that. If you're looking at other curriculums, ask for free samples. If companies don't post that they have that, just ask for free samples, and then just try it out. You're not going to know what works best for you without getting into it and trying it. And that's one of the reasons why we provide free samples of curriculum for churches.
Okay. And so, is there a process for developing curriculum for children versus developing curriculum for adults?
Yeah, definitely a slightly different process, and I go back to things that I've heard often in disability ministry is that uh, don't treat adults like children.
Mhm.
Um, people that are adults with disabilities, whether it be intellectual developmental disabilities or otherwise, don't like it when people talk down to them and treat
Mhm.
them like a child. So therefore, curriculum that's used with children should be different than the curriculum that's used with adults. It should touch on topics that adults deal with. Just because someone has an intellectual developmental disability doesn't mean that they don't grow up and have similar experiences that we all do. We all need guidance in scripture for some of those things that we run into as adults. So our teen and our adult curriculum does touch on many of those things. It's I'll say it's as far as like the children's curriculum versus our adult curriculum, much more expansive, much more geared towards conversation and activities and different things like that for the adults. So yeah, but we go there, and having some of those difficult conversations because they're needed, and the Bible gives us the guidance that we need and the answers that we need. So yeah, should be different because they are different.
All right. And so, tell us an example of children's curriculum that you provide from Abilities Ministry, something that would be geared more towards younger children.
Yeah, so we currently have 11 months. Next month we'll release our 12th series for children. So if a church was interested in buying a full year's cycle of lessons for children, coming in April, we'll have that full year available for children. If you were to download a series of children's curriculum from us, uh, your lessons would come in the form of PowerPoint, so visual. You'll also get Pro Presenter images. So if you don't use PowerPoint, you can do that. Lessons, again, very interactive, um, very based in scripture. We use images that are appealing, color schemes, everything like that, appealing to kids. Every one of our series comes with a video of the memory verse that's taught in sign language. So again, try to be as interactive in our learning as we possibly can. So that's one of our series in sign language. So that's included. Some of our newer children's series, actually all of our children's series, for each week has its own coloring page. So they can download that because all of our curriculum is 100% digital. I think that's one thing I probably should say
Okay.
off the top. When you order our curriculum, you don't get like a printed packet in the mail. It's 100% digital, so it can be downloaded instantly, and it can be customized our curriculum. So you'll get lessons on PowerPoint, you'll get videos that are embedded into the PowerPoint, you'll get coloring pages, you'll get a leader's guide that will help whoever's facilitating those lessons, some suggested activities as well. So yeah, we're pretty proud of our curriculum and glad that we'll finally be finishing that kind of full year cycle for children's ministry soon.
Okay. And then as far as adults, is the adult curriculum similar in format to the children in terms of the PowerPoints, the embedded videos and things like that, or is it in a different format?
We have 2 different formats, for our what we call kind of our teen and adult curriculum.
Mhm.
So we have the PowerPoint-driven curriculum where the lessons are all laid out in PowerPoint, that also have the embedded sign language videos, and we also this is kind of post-pandemic, we created video-driven lessons. So because of the pandemic, we felt like it'd probably be easier if someone's teaching in this type of format. We also have created video driven lessons. So it's myself or someone from my team that teaches the lesson in about a 10-minute video. Then, in addition to those videos, you get a PowerPoint, you get a leader's guide that comes with the discussion questions that you follow up the video lesson with. You get the sign language video, you get a coloring page, you get word searches. So we have added word searches for the adult curriculum. It has suggestions of activities that you can do in addition to the lessons. And we also try to give event ideas for every series. So just fun things that you and your group can do together, again, outside of Sunday morning, that is tied to the theme of whatever the series is. So we have video driven and we have PowerPoint driven series. For adults, we have about 3 years worth of curriculum available. Uh, we have 1 year's worth and we have about 2 years worth of PowerPoint driven lessons.
Okay. And so how did you develop these curriculum that you offer for ability ministry?
It goes back to my time at First Christian. When I started First Christian, I started actually in children's ministry, and then I
Mhm.
transitioned into disability ministry. But regardless of which ministry I was leading, I always wrote all the curriculum for our
Mhm.
ministries because that was just kind of like my passion. I don't think that's how God's probably wired me the most effectively is kind of creative writing, and that so back at First Christian, I was writing all of our material. When I transitioned to ability ministry, I kind of looked at the landscape of disability ministry and said, okay, what kind of curriculum's out there?
Mhm.
Didn't find a whole lot. There's a couple groups that have put out some stuff that maybe were I'll say a little bit more traditional, but there wasn't a lot of stuff that was I felt like was more current and relevant. So we decided that when I came on board in 2017 at Ability Ministry, one of the things that we were going to do is fill that need because no one we felt like was filling that need. And I decided to take a lot of stuff I wrote at First Christian, repurpose it, and start releasing it. So anything that we have released, this is one thing that I think is really important. Anything that we have released, I have already taught. So I've taught it, and I have kind of weeded out what doesn't work. So anything that we put out there, like I can confidently say, like I've taught that, like it's tested, it works. So yeah, so that's kind of how things have developed. And we probably at Ability Ministry, we probably spend about 75% of our time on just content development.
Okay.
It's probably the most. Uh, it's probably the thing that we major in. Like,
Okay. All right. So how can worship and prayer be included in the curriculum? Because it's important to have, time for prayer and worship. And so how do you include those into your curriculum?
okay, I'll start with prayer, and this is one thing that when I'm talking with churches, I always encourage them make sure to save time and make time for prayer. I think that the prayer time is probably if not the most important, at least the second most important thing that you do in your lesson time. uh, whenever you're using the curriculum. We, in all of our curriculum, at the end of every lesson, we give at least 2 to 3 prayer prompts is what we call them. So because a lot of times when you're sitting down with folks and they're, like, afraid to pray in front of other people, like, that's not unique to any population, that's everybody.
Right.
So we give you the prayer prompts, that you can simply read. Like, if you don't feel comfortable praying, we give you the prayers that, short sentence prayer that you can read, or you can build off of those and just say, "Hey, let's pray about this as a group." So we create that in our curriculum for people to kinda take the guesswork out of it so people don't get, like, nervous about it. But yeah, I would say in 15 minutes at the end of every group. Move beyond the prayer prompts. Take prayer requests. Some of the most vivid and fun memories I've ever had in ministry have been in that prayer request time. Just some of the things that people will say and that wants prayer over. Sometimes, a lot of times it's serious, but sometimes it's also amusing. As
Yes.
far as worship goes, um, I think you have to figure out what worked out. I think live worship's always the best. I know that that's a luxury for most ministries. Most ministries can't pull that off on a consistent basis. A couple ways that I've seen it done well if you can't do live worship. If your church has the ability to have the live stream that's going on in the worship service,
Hmm.
pump that into your room while
Yeah.
worship's going on and just watch that together. Or, another option that I've seen churches do and that we've done from time to time is what we call kind of YouTube, karaoke worship, where people have a favorite song that they want to sing, pull it up on YouTube, do the karaoke version of it so the lyrics are on the screen, and
Hmm.
just you know go by request on a Sunday, and do it that way. So there's a lot of ways to do it. I think the important thing about your group and that you do it.
Okay. All right. So, what are some ways, because every church may not have a separate disability ministry, they may have an inclusion type of a ministry. Um, how can ministry leaders adapt their curriculum for persons with disabilities? Like if they have a pre-existing curriculum that they're using with the other students and that child or that adult is in with others, how can they adapt the curriculum to make sure that it is accommodating for the person as well?
I think the biggest tip, that I can give for that is you got to get to know the individuals first. Find out what they respond well to. If they don't respond well to the small group environment, maybe you're pushing more into the large group environment. If they really enjoy singing, you're finding out what songs are on. If large groups not their thing because it's too loud or too bright, different things like that, they like the smaller, quieter environment. Um, really push into that small group environment. Get a copy of the lesson. If you've got a buddy situation, make sure that the buddies have a copy of the lesson in hand so they can see what questions are going to be asked, see what activity is going to be done. So much of success, in ministry, intentionality and taking the time. If you don't take the time to be successful, probably not going to be successful. So many times in ministry and in my time leading ministry, when I saw volunteers coming in, the only prep work that they did was probably 5 minutes before the kids showed up, and it's not always the best. It's not the best. It's definitely not the best recipe for success. It is reality, however. But I think if you have a child in there or them, and then take the material that you've got, get it into the hands of those, whether it be buddies or otherwise, get it in their hands early and figure out how you can make the experience the most meaningful as possible for each individual child, because each individual child with a disability is different from every other child with a disability, and you gotta get to know them to find out what works best with each individual kid. That takes work, but it's worth it.
Yes, yes, it is. So, like you kind of hinted at before, Ability Ministry has several different kinds of curriculum on your website. Tell us a little bit more about it. You have um, theme, like, um, indispensable, It's indispensable. Or is it
Indispensable
indispensable?
church.
Yeah, yes. So there's many different types of curriculums that you have. Tell us about the different types of curriculum that you have and which audience it might be more well suited for.
Yeah, speaking to indispensable church, we created a outside of the box ministry kind of model, which is meant to be done outside of Sunday mornings, whether it be a Sunday afternoon or an evening. And we called it an indispensable church, and it functions more along the lines of a monthly family worship style. And we've created a curriculum for that. We don't have a ton of curriculum in that, but we do have a, a indispensable church manual to institute this style of ministry. We have a handful of churches in Kentucky doing this right now, and loving it. So I think it's a viable kind of outside the box option. Again, if you're looking for something outside of Sunday morning. As far as other resources that we have on our website, like I said, about 90% of the stuff that we do is free. So we have awareness videos that we've created. We have sample sermons that we've done, or sermons that I've preached. We have 27 different one-page documents. All right.
Okay.
All right. Another way that we kind of refer to them as one-page guides. So it's a
Okay.
page literally front and back, um, that you can use. For example, we have a one-page guide on like a children's information sheet. So, what do you need beyond the children's ministry registration that will give you all the answers that you need to be successful about the child in your ministry? So, family fills it out. You have all the information you need to be successful. So that's one example of a one-page document that we have. You know, we have all kinds of. We have another example would be a church campus accessibility checklist is another one of our one-page documents. So front and back, you check yes or no on different areas of accessibility. If you check no, you create an action plan on fixing that. So that's another example of a one-page document. So we have 27 different ones. Again, you can download them all for free in our store. Super helpful. Those are just a few of the resources that you can find on our website, abilityministry.com.
Now, I want to go back to the indispensable when you said it was like a family type series. Tell me when you say family, is that something that parents can do at home with their children, or is it more of a small group type of setting?
It's meant to be done as a community in the church.
Mhm.
Again, outside of Sunday morning. So, it's created to be a family experience. So you come with your family. So our indispensable church model is it's like a family worship gathering that's meant to be had once a month. So we have materials for the leaders that are to experience. It's more than just a hey, you come in and worship together. We have stations for families to go through so they can do things very, tactile with their hands, themed on, what we're talking about. We teach churches on how to not only, you know, do these experiences, worship together, but eat together. So we give themes on foods that they can have for these gatherings. We suggest having different, like a parent support group for one of the off weeks. One of the other off weeks, we suggest having family outings or events so families can kind of grow together and have fun together. So it's a really neat, I think, again, outside the box model for families affected by disability to grow together and to support each other, and just do church.
Okay. So we get questions all the time about from churches that want to start a disability ministry, but some of them feel like they would benefit more from consulting services to help them get started. So tell us about the consulting services offered by Ability Ministry.
Well, check this out. We offer consulting services for churches for free. Free.
Oh,
Um, all you have to do, I'm gonna sound like a broken record. Go to our website, abilityministry.com, upper right hand corner, that button that says "I want to." Tap on that button, and one of the four drop downs is uh, free consulting. So
Mhm.
just tap on that, fill out the form. That form gets emailed to me. Either myself or someone else on the team will take the consultation request, set up a meeting with you, and issues you have going on. So whether it's getting started or whether it's getting unstuck, or whether it's you're dealing with an issue you don't know how to solve, because there's a lot of those bumps in the road when
Mhm.
it comes to disability ministry. We've seen a lot of those bumps, so we'd be happy to kind of talk you through that. So, yes, we offer free consultation services to churches. We do most of it in a Zoom format or a phone call. Uh, if churches, if they want to bring us in person to do a training for their staff or volunteers, we do that as well. Any of the in-person training things that we do charge for, but
Mhm.
anything else that we do online is free. So yeah, reach out to us. We'd love to have a conversation.
All right. And is there a limit to the number of consultations, or is it more of, you know, we will help you as you have the need?
It's definitely needs based. In the consultation, we'll never leave that consultation without giving you resources for your next steps. So what I usually encourage churches to do, I take notes during the consultation. I send a follow up email with those resources. I encourage churches, if you need help beyond this, or once you've finished working your way through those resources, circle back to me and we'll set
Mhm.
up another conversation. And most churches kind of take the ball and run from there. I do have a few churches that I've been taking off for I think 8 years now. So yeah, so it's a little bit here and there and in between.
All right.
So
So
it's
you
whatever the
really
church
walk
needs.
with them through the process.
Yes, we can.
Mhm. So, what are your thoughts about disability ministry conferences? I know that you have been breakout session and guest speaker and panelist on different disability ministry conferences. Um, what about those resources for families and churches?
Yeah, I think the difference out there when it comes to families affected by disability. I just think check the conference, because some conferences will have a track for families.
Mhm.
I know the what used to be Inclusion Fusion, which is now called the Disability in the Church Conference, that Key Ministry puts on in April up in Cleveland. I know they've often had both a ministry track and a family track, so that would be something maybe for families to check. The Wonderfully Made conference out in Kansas City, which is usually, I want to say, like in October. I don't know that they're doing it this year, but they've traditionally had a ministry track and a family track. So yeah, I'd say, check out some of those conferences, see if they have a family track, and some of those can be really encouraging to families as they get resources that they need, or just are able to network with people and make new relationships.
Okay. So, ability ministry has a lot going on. What is new and upcoming for ability ministry, and how can others get involved and support the work that you're doing?
So new stuff. Two things that we launched kind of end of last year. We launched a stock photography website featuring people with disabilities, because there's not a lot of good images out there of individuals with disabilities. So we saw a need, decided to meet that need. We launched this late last year, and if you go to disabilityisbeautiful.com, you can check out. We're still building the catalog as it's very new. It's free, so you can download any image you want for free and use it. You can also create. This is where you can help Ability Ministry. You can create a free account at disabilityisbeautiful.com and upload your favorite images of individuals in your family with disability, or images of yourself if you have a disability, and share that with the world. So that's one way that you can get involved and help. Another new thing that we started kind of end of last year is we created a scholarship fund for churches that want to build or purchase a universal size changing table. Um, Most churches will have an infant size changing table,
Mhm.
but most people, actually, all people that I've ever known, that have, infant that has personal care requirements that grow into an adult that has personal care requirements. They outgrow that infant size changing table. So they need a universal size or an adult size one. So we've again recognized this as a need. So we've created a scholarship fund for that. We wrote a book that we sell. That if you buy that book, 100% of the proceeds goes into that scholarship fund. The name of that book is The Tale of the Shrinking Toilets.
Okay.
It's a fun book. It's an allegory that teaches the world about what happens when the world becomes inaccessible in the bathroom because all the adult-sized toilets shrink down to infant-sized toilets. So it's a fun book that it raises awareness. When we sell it, it helps, build that scholarship fund. If you want to know more about that book, another way you can get involved, go to this website we created, shrinkingtoilets.com. I'll say
Okay.
that again, shrinkingtoilets.com. So it's fun. It raises awareness and meets by helping churches, find out that universal size changing tables are a must for churches. So that's new. Another thing that's new is we have 5 different future curriculum series that are currently in production. So that means they've been written. Most of them have been filmed. We're in editing processes. So every month we're trying to churn out new curriculum for churches. So that's some stuff that's new. If you want to get involved in helping us, one of the things that you've heard me say often is that stuff that we give away is free. We try to do as much free as we can because we know churches are strapped when it comes to budgets. So if you want to support our ministry, you can go to abilityministry.com, hit the donate button at the top of the page, and make a donation to our ministry. It goes into helping us continue to be able to create free resources. We don't like to charge for what we create because we need people as possible. So the more donations we get, the more stuff that we can create, give away for free. So that's how you can help us.
Right. And I have a question about the changing tables.
Hmm.
Um, so if a church wants to apply for that,
Hmm.
how do they go about applying for that? And is there a certain time of the year that a church could apply?
Okay. So
Uh-huh.
if you want to apply for a grant to help your church get a universal size changing table, go to
Mhm.
shrinkingtoilets.com and click on the initiative page. And there you'll find the grant application. You can do that at any time of the year. We don't have grant seasons, it's open all the time. When you go to fill out a grant application, depending on what size or type of universal size changing table you want to get for your church, we have different scholarship amounts available, and we'd be happy to help anybody.
That's wonderful. So thank you so much, Ryan, for joining us today. Is there anything else that you want to share with our viewers?
No, I'm just excited for the opportunity to share with your group. But thank you, Tanya, for having me, and I hope in some small way we can be a help in expanding God's kingdom through the reach of the people that you're connected with.
Wonderful. Well, I know everyone was blessed by the information that you had to share. For those of you that are joining us today, if you haven't already, we would like to encourage you to download our free activity toolkit, which contains a list of things that you can do to help your church become more autism friendly. We also have a free children's ministry prayer guide that is also available for download. Both items can be found on our website, which is autismfaithnetwork.com. Places of worship that implement an activity in April for Autism Awareness Month will be eligible for a free sensory toolkit. The toolkit includes a drawstring tote bag, fidget toys, headphones for children, headphones for adults, and handouts and resources from the Autism Faith Network. We will take registrations until April 30th. If you have any questions, please feel free to send us an email at info@autismfaithnetwork.com. We appreciate you joining us on today. On behalf of our board, thank you so much. Have a blessed day.